I'd been complaining about, how lousy I slept for many, many years. It really goes back about 15 years when I first, started really noticing, my changed mental state and my fatigue. And, I was very short-tempered and exhausted, and the littlest thing would set me off. If there were dirty dishes in the sink, I could explode with anger over that. Two teenagers in the house, and a father who's not getting much sleep and maybe putting on a little bit of weight and having more problems with sleep. And it was just a recipe for, very unpleasant situation. And I can tell you that it was. One thing that I've noticed in my family, particularly on my mother's side, is pretty widespread incidents of sleep problems. My daughter came home from her first year in college, and she was having difficulty getting to sleep, and took her to see a neurologist. And he went through an interview with her, asking her questions about her sleep patterns, and asked her about sleep difficulties in the family. And I was sitting there with her while this was going on, and it was a very easy thing for me to, kind of pour my heart out to the doctor with respect to the sleep difficulties that I've been having and have had. He suggested that I get a sleep study. For the sleep study, what I did is I showed up at a hospital, and the technician hooked me up to countless numbers of wires that were measuring all kinds of things. I had a sensor that was hooked to my leg that was measuring leg movement, and I had a sensor on my finger that was measuring the oxygen in my blood. After determining that, yes, I was in fact having apneas, they woke me up and hooked me up to a CPAP machine, continuous positive air pressure, because with sleep apnea what's happening is that you've got tissue and muscles in the back of your throat that relax and close off your airway passage. At least that's what happens with obstructive sleep apnea, which is what I have. I just would stop breathing while I was sleeping, and that's what prevented me from moving into, I guess, what they call REM sleep, where you start dreaming. When I woke up the next morning, I really felt good. I felt, it was a strange feeling for me, but I felt rested. Like for the first time in a long time, I felt rested. And at that instant, I realized that, this machine and I were going to become very good friends. Since I've gotten treated for my sleep apnea and use my CPAP machine every night, it's been like a fountain of youth for me, because my energy level is a lot higher. I'm getting, 7 or 8 hours of sleep, during the night. My life has changed. I've become a much different person. And, I think the best people, if you wanted to verify that, to ask would be my wife and my kids. My daughter, who's my oldest, really kind of got the brunt of it. And, I really have very deep guilt and regret about, my behavior at home. I'm grateful that, I was treated successfully for sleep apnea, and it's my wish that everyone who has it, gets treatment and has the successful experience that I've had.